So friends, we are back with the second part of our Let's Build series for Gringotts. Pretty excited about this. We are just kind of starting this kind of underbelly, I guess, of Gringotts, and you can see that it's shaping up really nicely. Looks like we're starting up bag 4, and we're going to be starting out with the absolutely vile Bellatrix Lestrange. And I have to say, regardless of what you may think about her personally, when J.K. Rowling came up with that name, there's hardly been a villain name quite as good as Bellatrix Lestrange. I think that is an absolutely devious name. Just imagine being born with a name like that. And it's like, do you have any choice but to be evil when you're born with a name like that? I mean, I think that it's pretty well, I don't know, your name might as well be Dick Dastardly. Another great villain name in the pantheon of villain naming. All right, looks like I can see more of those trans blue pieces in there. So I'm always glad to build some additional water with this set, especially in this under part. I think it's going to be really nice. All right, let's make it happen. Yeah, Luna Lovegood. Yeah, your destiny is set with names like this. And you know, a little alliteration with Luna Lovegood there, that goes a long way too. Ask Peter Parker or Clark Kent. A little alliteration can make a name pretty memorable. I absolutely love the Bellatrix like hairpiece that we have. I just think it's the craziest thing. And it's the kind of thing that it would just, you know, it's so specific to this character. It's not like you're going to be using it for a lot of, you know, a tremendous amount of other characters or purposes. But I still really love it. And I think they have managed to use it a couple of other times, maybe for some more supernaturally kind of stuff. Really like that we get printing on all of it. All right. A little accessory. Prints. That's not a bad point. We could include perhaps a raspberry beret, maybe. You know, I'll be honest. I would eat up with a spoon a Prince Lego set where you built the purple motorcycle from Purple Rain. Like, I would be there for that. And it wouldn't even be like a huge set if you were doing it in minifig scale. Like, I think it would be a very reasonable, very accomplishable set. So to me, that's what Lego Ideas is for, to get things like a Prince kind of thing out like that. That's what I would like anyway. All right, so we got some little wand for her here. We'll just throw that in. And then we can get down to the actual business of building the set. I always like how objects that are too large for Lego hands to hold, you plug them in. In the world of Lego, that's how you deal with it. Oh, let's see. Okay, and I'll get her alternative hairpiece out of the way. And here we go. Of course, I think at this point you do actually, and I think this is what the directions are getting at, I think you do want to have it setting up like this, because I think that that's the only way to make like a lot of the build make sense at this point. Get to where you can see it a little bit better. All right, apparently we're going to the back of the whole thing right here. We're going up a little bit, yeah, to this kind of barren area right here. Looks like we're getting the backs of rocks on there. just going to say this is the Batcave. I mean, why not, right? Lego kind of has a questionable history with the Batcave in recent years. It seems like that's something that they're struggling to nail down in a way that makes everybody happy. Who knows if you can ever make everybody happy necessarily with something like this, but it does seem like there's always some contention about what a Batcave set should be. I mean, this isn't far from what I would think the beginnings of something like a Batcave needs to be. You know, it's not... But it's funny because I haven't seen them attempt anything like this, like a big kind of vertical sort of cave like that. Everything they do is... there's always something strange about it. Like, you know, I still think that shadow box Batcave, Batman Returns, I think that's a really novel idea. But I'm always really impressed by it when I see it in person, like in the window display at the Lego store. But I never feel the same when I'm like considering ordering it online. And maybe that's a sign that I should just go for it eventually, because in person it seems to really impress me and I'm taken aback by how cool it is. But then, you know, seeing it just like online and in press photos, it just never really captures me the way that I was hoping it would. But at the same time, I feel like a traitor, because if there was anybody in the world who would have bought a Batman Returns Batcave, I feel like it ought to be me, because I love Batman Returns so much. But at the same time, I just don't know. It's difficult. You always want to make sure that when you're putting that amount of money in something, that you're just head over heels and there's absolutely nothing that bothers you about a set like that. Looks like we're doing the backs of these little nodules here. There we go. And so this is a lot of, I think, cleanup work right now. At least that's what it seems to be, a lot of cleanup work. Just kind of making things a little tidier, perhaps. Looks like we're doing some of the same with the bottom here. Of course, with a set like this, you can never take those kinds of details for granted, because like I said earlier, this is, you know, a mega priced set as well. And I'm glad that it feels like that they took that into account. It doesn't feel haphazard the way that they designed this. It feels very intentional, that they had to get it right. They had to get it perfect in order to please the fans. So you have to respect that kind of dedication. Oh, you probably couldn't see at all what I just did. That's the thing with a vertical build like this. I'm having to maybe keep in mind a little bit more than usual that, yeah, I'm going to different levels of it. So that's the last thing you want to do, is obscure what you're doing accidentally. I remember I got into this trouble when I was building the giant pirate ship, and you got to the section of the build where it's like you're building the mast and the sails and all of that, and I couldn't quite position my camera in a way that made the most sense that would actually, you know, make it easy to follow what I was doing. So it's always something I at least try to be aware of. I don't want to leave everybody in the dark completely anyway. Let's see. All right. And I know that it looks like we're building a little stream here. And as I've already expressed, that's always one of my favorite parts of these builds. Any kind of water feature is always a big deal for me. Okay. Of course, I was kind of a weird kid in that way, because I would watch like these landscaping shows with my dad. And I was always absolutely fascinated by this one. It was on PBS, and it was called The Victory Garden. And I thought it was the coolest show when I was a kid. And there was this guy, he had a huge long beard in that show, and a kind of a funny accent. And anytime they would have like water features in the landscaping, I thought that that was what we needed to do at our house, that we needed to introduce some water features. And then here I am as a grown man, and I have not introduced such water features into my own landscaping. So it turns out I was a little hypocrite. Then again, as a kid, it was always like my ambition to have like a fireman's pole in my house instead of stairs. And the whole reason I felt that way was because of the 60s Batman show, which was being shown on the Family Channel when I was a kid, if y'all remember the Family Channel. And I felt like I could have that in my house, and that I would always be like ready for action that way. And that the bat pole would then lead to like a swimming pool. And so there was never any concern that you were going to hurt yourself. That's how my mind worked when I was a kid. I wouldn't say no to it today, you know. Some generous builder came to my house and was like, I can do this for you. I'd be like, yes, please. Let's make this happen. How much like the 60s Batcave can you make my house? Money is no issue. There's a guy that works with Kevin Smith. You guys may know him, Ralph Garman. He does a lot of podcasts with Kevin Smith and stuff. And he was probably the world's greatest 60s Batman fan. I think it's pretty undisputed at this point. He was personal friends with Adam West and things, and was responsible really for getting Adam West his star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame and things like that. So, I mean, he was just heavily involved. And he had this room in his house, and I guess he still does. You can find videos of it on YouTube, where he actually built in like a secret passage that's rigged to the Shakespeare bust statue head from the 60s Batman show. And like that's how you get into the room. So you're talking about somebody who is so dedicated. That's the closest I've heard of anybody like trying to build in the 60s Batcave into their house. Nothing but respect. Nothing but respect. Look at that. That's such a cool little visual there with the trans blue bricks over top of the regular light blue. I think that's nice. And then I love what they're doing to get the little waves, like the currents in the water, because you're doing those little slopes that are just connecting to those, and you can see it just kind of looks like it's moving. That is great. And at this point in the instruction manual, I'm starting to see some text on the side. I was curious if they were going to do anything like that for this set, because with a lot of these premium sets, the instruction manuals will have like behind the scenes tidbits, or will have some kind of like running thing going in it, or some kind of like text like as you build. I'm curious what this says. Here in a second we'll find out together, I guess. All right, we have our little connectors here. Okay. One thing that hopefully is improving the live experience for anybody watching is it used to, I would when I did the settings for any kind of live video, I always just hit the button to monetize it or whatever, and not thinking that would have much of an impact on like the viewing experience. Turned out it did. I didn't even understand like how it worked at the time. But the deal was that like every few minutes it was playing ads like over a live stream. I didn't know it was anything that egregious. And so I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that anymore. So, yeah, that's the last thing I want to do. And here's this text that's actually in the instruction manual. It says, the Thief's Downfall is a waterfall that can be released over the track at Gringotts with the effect of washing away all enchantments and magical concealments. Hey, there you go. So this is it, the Thief's Downfall. I absolutely love, and you gotta kind of turn this to an angle to see, the water has a source, and then it becomes, rapid right here, and then flows the rest of the way down to the base. And so I think that's really cool attention to detail. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Whoop, wrong piece. There we go. I think this is some kind of like rock outcropping or something that we're building here. I'll be curious to see exactly what it is when it's completely built. Definitely looks like the kind of width that maybe you would see for a minifig. I don't know, we'll find out. One unfortunate side effect of me moving around the pieces was that it looks like I've kind of mixed up some of my pieces, so typically I have them arranged a little bit better than this. Okay, all right. Turned out a lot more solid than I thought it would. Even more so, because now we're putting some studless parts on here. I've been watching Ahsoka, the new Star Wars show, and that has been incredible. I am tickled pink with how that show has turned out. Of course, I had great faith because it was Dave Filoni, but still, I mean, even knowing the caliber of writing and things that I would get, I've still been surprised at just how immensely gratifying that show's been. However, though, anybody that says that it's maybe a little continuity heavy from Rebels, the series that had come before, that's definitely a fair thing to say. It's definitely not a show that's made to just jump right into if you're not familiar with any of the other stuff. I feel like it's unrealistic, though, to expect that everything is going to be accessible to like all general audiences all the time. I almost feel like that's a downfall of the MCU, or has been, that at the same time, there's the MCU doesn't respect its own continuity very much, and at the same time expects you to know the minutia of its continuity. So it's kind of a weird thing to express. Do I follow the Harry Potter fan theories? It's the kind of thing to where like I hear about some of them, but it's not something, you know, I've investigated like real heavy. Do you have a certain one that's like, it's like one that you subscribe to, perhaps, or one at least that you find interesting? So I'd love to hear it. Maybe I should start a Harry Potter fan theory that's completely ridiculous and it's just meant to like enrage hardcore Harry Potter fans. A few years ago, I got introduced to a genre of YouTube video that cracked me up beyond belief. And it was in the early 2000s. Well, not really early 2000s. I guess this was like 2006, 2007. It was kind of a lawless time on YouTube, and people didn't really worry about getting copyright struck for anything. And it was this whole era of people putting together like fan-made music videos to Evanescence songs of things like, say, for instance, Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars and Hermione Granger like falling in love, and they would do it to like wake me up, and so you would have like, they would just put random clips together and like splice them in a way that was like telling a story about Anakin and Hermione's forbidden love. And it led to some of the most hilarious cringe I've ever seen, like good cringe too, like really funny. And it was enough at times to make you wonder if someone had just like made them to be funny. But the more you watch them, the more you realize that they were supposed to be totally legitimate. You know, that they were, I mean, they had shipped these fictional characters, and that they were, I mean, just, they were in it to win it about these fan theories. Or fan matchups, should I say. Maybe that should be the next genre of YouTube videos that I should do. I should try. But I have to use YouTube audio library copyright-friendly music only. That would be the challenge, right? You can't use any kind of actual like emo music. You'd have to use it, you know, their audio library. That's what you were limited to. That's the mark of a true artist, though, is they could still make hilarious cringe videos, but with YouTube free audio. Well, you can't get copyright struck. I think I'm onto something. Probably not, but still. This is an interesting little detail I'm applying to this. I guess this is a vault right here, a vault entrance, perhaps, maybe along the path of the mine card. Speaking of Lego mine cards, I'm still really sore about this apparent cancellation of the Lego Temple of Doom Indiana Jones Lego set. I thought for sure that when it first got canned or whatever, I thought, well, it's not going to be permanent, it's just delayed, they'll rework it, whatever. But apparently this set was done, and they canceled it. And there was never a clear explanation for why. And some people felt that it was because, like, Mola Ram, the villain from Temple of Doom, was, like, ethnically insensitive, and Lego didn't want to have to deal with the pushback over it. But, I mean, can that really be true? I mean, is that really... Would anybody have really said too much about Mola Ram, the crazy guy who pulls his soldiers' hearts out in Temple of Doom? I mean, can anybody... Even the wokest of woke, you know, when it comes to some kind of social justice warrior or something like that, could they really be too offended by it? I mean, it's so silly. I don't know. I just don't get it. I mean, maybe I'm just not maybe I'm not being empathetic enough when I say that. I don't know. And I don't mean to be like that, but I just don't understand. But what's really funny is you can have facsimiles of some, well, we'll just say political extremist groups from World War II in those sets, and nobody says anything. Like, that's not offensive? That's pretty offensive. I mean, if you think about it in the same kind of way, but I just don't get it. I really hope Lego proves me wrong and they still end up releasing this Indiana Jones Temple of Doom minecart final battle, whatever it is. I really want to see them release it. It actually zapped like my entire enthusiasm for the Indiana Jones revival Lego theme. And you know, when I saw that they were just going to completely kick that one out, it kind of made me say, I'm good. Maybe it's not something I want in on, which honestly probably would have been something I regretted getting in on anyway. I don't really have any kind of display where Lego Indiana Jones would make sense, I think, for my Lego collection. So it probably would have been a movie hype thing. And I didn't like the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny movie at all. I thought it was horrible, to be honest. Like, I really didn't enjoy hardly any of my experience watching that movie. So I'm really glad I didn't get sucked in on the merchandise all that much. Because if I had, I think I would have been really upset with myself for buying a bunch of stuff and then seeing a new Indiana Jones movie that I thought was bad. Because I really did think it was actually bad. And I was surprised at how many defenders the movie had online. But hey, it's, you know, it's a completely subjective thing. It's movies. If you love it, great. That's awesome. I was definitely in that position with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I actually liked Kingdom of the Crystal Skull quite a bit. So, man, Dial of Destiny, that was a rough stretch of road for me getting through that movie. Sheesh. Boring. All right. So here we have a sticker placement. Looks like it's a stone, maybe like marker that shows what the vault number is supposed to be, but it's like crushed because it's so old. At least I think that's what I'm dealing with. Hard to say. You know how it is, Lego printing on stickers can be a little cartoony and abstract, so you can never be 100% sure what they're necessarily getting at with some of this stuff. Yeah, that's not bad. I'll take it. I always rate myself on the sticker application as I go. It's something, if you don't watch me do this before, you'll see me do this as I go through. It's like, not bad. Yeah, that worked out okay. I have no idea what criteria I'm using to like determine. I guess if it looks equilaterally placed, I think that's my whole criteria. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it could have. Oh, I see your theory now. My favorite was that Harry got his son a ferret to torture Draco. Oh, that's good. I mean, I buy that, sure. Doesn't even seem that outlandish. You never know. All right, so I think I plug this vault chamber in right here, but it's one of those things where you have to be very specific. Okay, there we go. It snapped in. All right. Yeah. Okay, I like that. I like the theory behind this, that like, oh, I see now. Yeah. And so back here you have like some of the coins and the treasure in here. Yeah, I see. Like a little goblet. Okay. Yeah, I like that. There's also some depth in here. You know, you can see my fingers kind of disappear into it. That's surprising. Yeah, that's surprising. Okay, moving on. And looks like we're building some kind of outcropping of rocks, maybe right here. I think I'm having more fun with the mine section and like building like all the rocks up and all the little entrances to the vaults. I think that's more fun than I thought it would be. So I'm really glad that I said to myself, well, I've got to do the gift with purchase, you know, quick as I can. And I'm glad I did that because the gift with purchase was an extra vault. So it's going to expand the set and I think make it look nicer that it's there. There was another gift with purchase that I'm really glad I sprung for a little while back. And that was the staircase in Hogwarts. Now that was meant for the playset system of Hogwarts builds, but which I still need to put together. Maybe one of these days, maybe after this, I'll be motivated to just keep going, you know, in the Harry Potter direction, and we'll just keep putting together Harry Potter sets. That could be a fun idea for, you know, kind of semi-regular live streaming on here, as it just becomes kind of our thing to build a Harry Potter set every few weeks and start on a new one. That could be a really fun series, kind of an ongoing thing. And I'm still wondering if I need to do an additional channel that's like a Fan Bricks Forever kind of thing. That would be really fun to aim for doing a channel like that. But, you know, the truth is, with my work and everything else, I just don't know if I can extend myself enough to do like another channel. I barely get content onto this channel as it is on Fanboys Forever. I'm just barely keeping up with my He-Man reviews. So I don't know. It's probably not feasible, but hey, you never know. What you don't want to do in the YouTube world is burn out, because if you do that, yeah, you're going to disappear. Okay, that's a little bit of more of a rock kind of base there. Be interesting to see how much they go for that on the other side too. We don't have a lot left to bag for, actually, just very few pieces. So I'm going to be curious to see where we end up at with this bag, and just how many bags that there are even to build this whole mining, you know, underground system. I just don't know. Will it be, it seemed like I remembered seeing that it was the first like 5 or 6 bags, but I could be wrong. There could be a whole lot more to it than that. And then here's a good question. I don't know whether I stop and do the gift with purchase set so that I can, like, you know, because it's the same type of thing, or if I just go on to Gringotts and then do the gift with purchase set afterwards. Yeah, I guess the gift with purchase set is its own set, but it is a very small set, so I don't think it would take long. I think that that's going to come down to how burnt out I am with one big continual build kind of thing, because I've used that as a method before to like alleviate that, because if you don't break things up and change what you're doing every now and then, it is really easy to be like, oh, you know, I don't want to go any further. Okay, so there's going to be more to this area than I thought that there would be, because this is starting to become more horizontal now. I really thought it would just be kind of a flat vertical, you know, shoot straight up, but okay, there's a little bit more than I thought there would be to it. And you can see just how few pieces here are left. It's interesting. It's funny, the other day, just for kicks, somebody asked me how long like I spend like doing one of these live streams, and like what the accumulated building time is on something like this. And I thought, well, you know, I should look. I've never really paid much attention to it. And I went back to the Home Alone house build that I did over the holidays a year or two ago. And it was really funny because I think I like totaled it up that the live stream, it was like 18 hours or something of live streaming. I don't know if that's accurate. You know, I might go back and it's not that, but that seems like the number I got. And it's really funny that you could accumulate like that much time building a single set. But that was a very complicated build. And I mean, it wasn't like super difficult or anything, but a lot of that build's challenge, and I don't think I acknowledged this enough at the time, was the cramped spaces. So that was the big problem with that set. It was not exactly a problem, like I said, it's more of a challenge. But that was what I was up against with that, is you were trying to, cram so much into this house. I still say that that's got to be the most crammed Lego set ever made in terms of little details. Just, I mean, everywhere, with them trying to convey that house, that classic, floor plan. And they succeeded. I mean, just barely, but they did it. So the designers really have to be commended on that. And that's why I want to see them do more houses in that style. They're still minifig scale, but they have those, UCS kind of details. All right, got that plugged in. Sometimes I think about what it is that maybe, there's a lot of miserable people in the world, right? I think a lot of the people we come into contact, gosh, on a day-to-day basis, I think a lot of those people are miserable, whether we realize it or not. And that is horrible. Life is a gift, and people being just miserable and kind of being sorry that they're alive, I think that is continually becoming a big issue in just our culture and in our country. And honestly, I think that probably work-life balance is one of the main culprits of that. And of course, I'm not going to preach a sermon or anything, but also I think a lack of any sort of connection to spirituality in any case, but I think that those things are all legitimately things that cause this. And the reason I bring it up is because I think Lego can be a path. It's not the end all be all, of course, and it's certainly not the most important thing. But I think building Lego sets can be a path to a healthier work-life balance. And it sounds silly, but I think it's true. I think if more people had, a little relaxing kind of puzzling play sort of hobby like this, I think you would find that there was a lot more effective stress management. And of course, it's not a free kind of thing, so that's the unfortunate part, is I think people that go too far into it, I think it becomes an obsessive thing, and that's not good. And I've let it become that a couple of times, to where, I was probably more obsessive than I should have been, and let it stress me out more than I should have. But truthfully, I think that it's a really good way to make sure that you kind of have everything balanced out. Because I don't think we were meant as humans to live in some of the ways that we are. I think that's the best way to put it. I think some of the things we're doing to ourselves are dangerous when it comes to the amount of work and the amount of stress that we are putting on ourselves. All right, that's it for bag 4. Let's crack open bag 5. This is the least prominent amount of extra pieces that we've gotten so far. There's like nothing to those pieces. All right, make my way over to bag 5. Good thing I have the mic clipped to my shirt here so that you can still hear me. All right. Now, thankfully, I have cleaned up my workspace since the last time I started this, because there was bags everywhere, and it really legitimately made me nervous. So now I sorted out the bags and have them like in a certain pile, and the other ones that I'm not even close to being ready for, in the 20s and all that, I have those somewhere else, like in a box. So I feel like it can be a little more peaceful. Oh man, the Clue Mansion. Yeah. Oh man. Now I'm gonna think about it. Thanks, Kayla. Oh. Seriously, I would love that set. Especially if it were based very much on the movie, I think I would really be happy with it then. And, you know, I didn't sit down to watch Clue until probably about a year and a half ago or so. And instead, I just, you know, I'd always heard things about it. And of course, you and I both are big Tim Curry people. So it was always on the list of like movies I needed to watch. But gosh, it was just so much fun. Really cleverly written. And I really enjoyed seeing the alternate endings, which are all spliced together now. You know, when you watch any kind of streaming version of the movie, you get to see all the endings. And back in the day, I guess it was like random, whichever ending you would get at your theater. Could you imagine them doing something like that now? Oh my gosh. I don't know if people would love it or it would be outrage. I don't know. But man, there were some funny endings. Loved it. Okay, this is sort of looking like, you know, a graveyard here. Kind of reminds me of the zombie wedding set from Monster Fighters a little bit. I still think it's funny that Lego was like, kind of disowned that set, or doing sets like it later where they're like, yeah, maybe we went too far. I don't know how you could take Lego zombies too seriously. I think they're mostly like gray. I mean, they're as cartoony as all get out, but hey. See, and now adding like these moss pieces make it even more cemetery-like, so. Now we're starting to get a little masonry in here, so it's kind of getting away from that graveyard look. So I know a lot of probably my audience probably watched Andor, the Star Wars series, or at least, you know, the first half of it, because that's what's out so far, the first half of that series. Apparently, and this was really funny to me, apparently there was some outcry from some upset Star Wars fans, some of them pretty prominent in the Star Wars fan community here on YouTube. Apparently a lot of them were upset that there's a planet in Andor, and if you watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, that is full of masonry and brickwork. They were absolutely insistent, apparently, at least this is how I understood it, that brickwork did not exist in Star Wars, that there weren't bricks. And I don't know, that's probably one of the funniest things I've ever heard anybody complain about in my life, especially because if you watched Andor, you know that that show is a banger. It is absolutely, it is a level of quality that I think has scarcely ever been achieved in Star Wars, and that's on any version of Star Wars, you know, any of the original films, whatever. I think that the level that they got to with Andor is a whole other thing. And that's coming from a guy who wasn't excited at all about that show. So if you never watched Star Wars anything, I strongly suggest that you at least give Andor a shot. It doesn't really rely on much of any continuity from other stuff. If you've watched Rogue One, cool, because then you'll know the future of some of the characters. But that's kind of it. You go in, and it is just a terrific story. And I think that you can't go wrong with that. And no wonder that you've got Warner Brothers who, you know, are itching for Harry Potter streaming content, like we've talked about in the last live stream. I mean, that is the easiest business decision that you could possibly make. And you know why that they're doing it, because they're thinking that Harry Potter is one of our most valuable properties. It's essentially sitting on a shelf right now. But the merchandise, like, you know, case in point, the merchandise is still selling. Like, it is just flying off the shelf. So the appetite is still there. It kind of reminds me of the setup for the Star Wars prequels, that it had the same thing going, which was that there wasn't any new movies, and there was still this massive marketing juggernaut that was still collecting millions of dollars every year, and that there was always merchandise in production, like, continually. I think that Warner Brothers are getting those same signs from the Harry Potter fan base, which includes me. And, you know, here I am buying this Lego set for hundreds upon hundreds of dollars because I am clearly one of the pieces of market research that they're looking at. That's like, oh yeah, maybe we should do more. Maybe we should do a streaming series. Maybe we should remake, you know, the books and all that. And here's the thing. I don't know if that's exactly accurate for the signal that I would be giving by buying this. I think that really what I'm trying to say when I buy a product like this is, hey, I really love what you already did. and then I feel trepidatious about anything new. But man, what a fumble that would be, though, right? You had like the entire Harry Potter IP, and you couldn't make a retelling of the book's work, or you miscast it. You ruined the legacy of the others, which, I don't know, it's possible. A whole lot of people felt that way, I guess, about the Star Wars prequels. I didn't, because I was a kid and they were exactly what I wanted. But yeah, that would be a shame. I think you run a big risk every time you take on a project like that, because yeah, there's a lot of financial gain from something like that. Like, definitely a lot of financial gain. But are you accidentally, like, are you jeopardizing your own IP? Like, if it turns out poorly and they, you know, it's the ruination of Harry Potter, would that then, like, hamper the sales of all this merchandise? Or would they, like, retreat from it and then just revert everything back to the old movies? I don't know. I don't know what the safe bet is. But I do know this, that it makes the most financial sense for Warner Brothers, a company that is really struggling, to say, better get some new content out there. So whatever form that content takes, you know, it's probably a wise move. And lover or hater, J.K. Rowling is still a driving force behind it. And I'm sorry, you can't take it away from her that she should still have, you know, financial results from these projects, that she should still be heavily involved creatively in these projects, because it's just like the situation. It's not exactly like it, of course, but it is in some ways similar to people who were just absolutely, utterly convinced that George Lucas was an idiot who didn't need to be in charge of the Star Wars prequels or whatever. Well, you couldn't take that away from him either, because that was his baby. So until he sold it himself years later. But seriously, there isn't a lot that you can say. At least I don't think there is. Yeah, you can certainly disagree with the person or not like what they do, but I think it's kind of foolish. You see people, you know, just like demanding that J.K. Rowling be let go from all her involvement creatively with Harry Potter, not receive residuals from anything. It's really I mean, I don't know. I think that it's kind of hypocritical. You want, or at least these people, they want to buy into this and they want to support it and they love it, but yet they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're wanting to, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to accomplish, but I also get standing up for people. I get that too. But at the same time, it is funny to see people try to stretch themselves morally They want a virtue signal, but they also want that sweet, sweet Harry Potter merchandise. At least that's what it looks like to me. Definitely what it looks like. Okay. All right, yeah, I think this piece right here is done. And this plugs in right over here to the side. I love the way that that was built out, because you built rather independently this big outcropping and, you know, kind of ruins, but then it just kind of plugged in a modular way to the rest of it. So it definitely feels, that feels really cool to do that when you've got like a structure built and then you're just plugging things into it. I'd love to see Lego concoct a buildable Iron Man figure that was like that, because in the 90s, Iron Man wore the modular armor. And with the modular armor, it's funny because it kind of looked like a midriff shirt, but it was a great design, really. I'm selling it short by emphasizing that part of it. But with that, I think that that would be a cool thing to model like a new Iron Man buildable figure from. And they've been nothing if not controversial with what they've done with Iron Man buildable figures in the last couple of years. Hulkbuster was a disaster and was even more expensive than this set. Could you imagine paying like what, $450, $500 for a Lego set and then hating it? That would talk about a regrettable purchase. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I would do. I can't even imagine. Just being sick to death and you spent that much money. And I have no clue how people who are like all in on Lego, I don't have any clue how they do that. And not just financially, but space-wise. Like, who are these people? How would they accomplish this? Like, it makes no sense to me. I guess, honestly, I think that what a lot of people do is something I don't do very often, is they dismantle sets and like sort the pieces by color, and then they just keep the booklet, and I guess if they ever want to reassemble it, they could. But I don't know, like, to me, I'm certainly not the person that would glue them together or anything like that. I'm not a monster like Will Ferrell. But seriously, I don't know. Like, for me, it's more of like they stay together. Like the sets kind of, they become objects of themselves. Like, you know, they don't, I don't commonly disassemble things for storage purposes. But maybe I should, and maybe I'll have to here pretty soon, because I am stretching what the possibilities are and what the actual, you know, limits are. I feel like I'm stretching that in my collection right now. Not in like a crazy, you know, hoarder way, like, you know, I can't get through my house or anything like that, but I'm stretching what is comfortable for me to like store and what's comfortable for me to display, which I think you should never overlook, because with a hobby, are you really happy if you can't display that hobby? Okay, so looks like another sticker, this time on a shield right here. Okay. This is, oh, it's an establishment sticker. Established 1474. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Okay, kind of giving me Legend of Zelda vibes here as I place this on the shield piece. No, that's a horrible placement. So I'll show you what I do when this happens. I take the edge of the wax paper, all right? You see what I'm doing? I'm just working it back and forth. See how easily you can get in under the sticker? It's kind of like having an extra life in a video game, only in the world of Lego stickers. You can kind of cheat it this way, and then be careful not to crease it. Then you can take your finger and pry it back off. Try it again. This time, I think I know what I'll do. I will start from this end. Okay, nobody breathe. Don't say anything. See, oh yeah, okay, that's much better. Much better. All right, that's acceptable. So I just took you through my little sticker process there. I knew he was crazy. I'm unsubscribing. What a creep. All right, so we stick that there. And we place it over to the side. And once again, to keep in line with that modular system, this hits right here. Okay, so they give us another little passage to read here. It says, in the wizarding world, Gringotts Bank was established in 1474 by a goblin named Gringott. It was created in response to the 14th century wizarding economic bubble, which unfortunately burst due to the soap blizzard of 1378. Oh my gosh. Well, that's funny. Yeah, I like that. I didn't even know that. The soap blizzard of 1378. What? I do like the dry sense of humor that you'll find. It's a kind of a, you know, it is a British sensibility in Harry Potter. There's kind of a dry wit to the history, and you can never take it too seriously. At least I can't anyway. It's all fun. However, you know, I'm sure that there's still people out there, and at least I think they reared their heads a few years ago on Facebook, and I was laughing hysterically, that believe that Harry Potter is going to take my soul straight to hell. So, oh my. Man, those guys were everywhere when I was a kid and Harry Potter first got big. Ain't it the way? It was Pokemon was evil, then Harry Potter was evil. Just anything that was popular, it's evil. It's evil. Pokemon demons getting you. Oh, please. Go. Plug that in. Yeah, I think I'm going to continue with this idea in my head that this is actually a bat cave. I almost said Batmobile. This is actually a bat cave set. You know, you have all this cave work right here. You know, it kind of reminds me of some of the cave stuff in like Batman Begins, where Bruce Wayne is exploring the caves that would become the Bat Cave. All right, so cliff that goes nowhere, check. Okay. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, nice little silhouette, nice little landscape going. Okay. Our piece count is starting to dwindle, but it's funny how this bag has been dedicated to just all these pieces that like build in like a modular, you know, that kind of way. Oh, let's see. Not that one. There we go. This is just a little beautification piece, I think, to cover up some of the sides of the brickwork there. And then we have these lovely pieces, which look like the little bomb. What do you call them? The things that like go up and down that are made out of rock in Mario. They have the faces. That's what that reminds me of. Can't remember what those things are called. Come on. Okay. It's funny, I guess this book that I'm using right now, this booklet, is just for all the subterranean build stuff, because I'm almost through this booklet and I'm about positive that they'll cut it off when there's no more subterranean build, because that surely would, I think, be the thing that makes the most sense. Oh, okay. Let's see. All right, well, here's one of these pieces. It's like the rock arch. How am I not seeing the other? I believe that there's supposed to be another. Maybe I have misplaced it. Ah, there it is. It was laying there. There we go. Completes out that arch. It's a little uneven. I may have to work with that a little bit. Okay. Good. That evened it up, putting the connector piece on there. This is about the extent of it in terms of this pile of bricks for bag number 5 before we move on to 6. My goal is that I never want to do one of these live streams where I'm, it's complete burnout and going too far with it. So my goal is always to do 3 or 4 bags, pending anything comes up or I'm summoned back upstairs or something. So I never want to burn out, trying to do it, because I do think that that's what a lot of people end up doing. You can make yourself miserable with these builds when you're trying to, just like power through and push yourself. And at the end of the build, that makes all the sense in the world, because you are wanting to get to the end, but that's a different kind of sensation. Whereas when you're like right at near the beginning of a build, like I am right here, then I think that that's a different kind of thing. Because if you're pushing yourself, and trying to get in a certain amount, like at this stage, oh my gosh, you've got a exhausting road ahead of you. And I'm way too casual for that. I think used to, I would do these and I would feel like an immeasurable sense that I like had to, I'm not really sure. I'd say that a lot of people who start live streaming for any kind of hobby or any kind of channel, I would say that a lot of those people feel similarly, where you first feel really performative. Like when you're starting to do it, it takes a while, like a long time of doing it before you can feel just natural about it and not forced or strange. And that's not even with my face on camera for most of the time, so I can't imagine how that feeling can affect you, because I bet it does. Especially if you're a self-conscious person, I think we all are to some extent. I think it would be unfair to say that you are completely unself-conscious. I think we all have a little bit of anxiety that draws from that in some way. Kind of a misconception about anxiety, really, because we all have it to some extent. We all deal with it to some extent. I just think that some of us deal with it, that it manifests in stronger ways than others. So, you know, like me, I would be one of those people. You know, and in that case, you have to be a little more proactive in treating it. But it's just like what John Mayer said, fear is a friend that's misunderstood. So. Okay, this is a really neat kind of rock piece right here. I really like this. I love the use of the shield in there to give it a little bit more variety. That's nice. And once again, just like with all the other pieces in this section, completely modular, kind of just connection, where we've made one piece and we connect it to the larger whole of the thing. Okay, we connect to the top here. See, this is a little different because I'm actually just building onto this, and it's not something I'm building off to the side and then connecting it as like a modular piece. Okay. Putting a little moss down. Next time Lego puts moss in a set, they just include a bag of that fake like moss stuff and spray glue. People would lose their minds. It'd be the end of the company. Here's your spray glue and moss. Apply it liberally. It'll add authenticity to the set. Keep spraying, Junior. Don't forget the back of the set. Spray it on the back. No one will ever see it, but you'll know. Okay. And nearing the end here, and also nearing the end of this booklet. Okay. All right, so this just looks like a filler piece. It's going to cover some of that exposed stud work. Ah, there it is. I was a little confused at first. Okay, there we go. That evens up the side of the rock a little bit. Okay. Ah, here we go. Covering up some of those studs on the side with a flat. Then we have a mechanism here that I assume is going to help us with some of the actions on the set. I'm not 100% sure yet. Here we go. Got this gear. Just need to thread this through. There we go. That goes in that one. Okay, then we turn this to the side so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. It's funny how thin that the profile actually is when you turn it. Kind of makes it, I'm sure from your angle, it makes it seem very insubstantial, inconsequential. That was the word I was looking for. Means about the same thing. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. All right. At first I wasn't sure, but this is like the whole minecart stoplight thing. If you remember, you know, like It's like signaling the carts to slow down or to stop or whatever. Okay. And then we build another mechanism here. We're getting into the more Technic-based parts of the build. All these little Technic pieces. It's amazing what a library of Technic pieces and parts and gears that they have now. They can practically, you know, especially these mock builders, can really get a set to do about whatever they want it to do in terms of like an automation or something like that. So these two wheels are supposed to feed in. Oh yeah, nice. Oh, that's a smooth motion. Cool. All right. Now we have a little lantern, a little light that hangs down, which we would see, you know, sometimes in the movie. See like little lanterns hanging up in the subterranean areas of Gringotts. And that is going to be what clamps onto the little holder here. Let's give it a little, yeah, there we go. Now we got a little lamp sticking out. Okay, we turn it back around to the thief's downfall. There we go. And we are just putting some beautification pieces on here to cover up some of that stud work. And that's something I really appreciate, is it feels like that they're doing things very purposely to cover up some of that and clean it up to where it's not so messy from any angle. And that's great, because a lot of the times you don't get that. A lot of the times they leave it just as messy as all get out. See, we add this shield piece and that helps it even more right there. And then clearly I was foolish enough to ignore some directions somewhere. Ah, there it was. I knew that there was no way I had an extra one of these. Okay, so the deal was that I was so obsessed with getting the little mechanism right that I didn't notice this big old blank spot here where I was supposed to put this and another shield piece. So the deal is that you take the shield piece, I think, and, you know, first I better put the rock piece. I think that'll help guide me, yeah. Then I put the shield piece. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. All right, so you can see that that ends the book. We kind of have this whole subterranean setup. But I'm not 100% sure that my guess about it ending the subterranean setup was right, because of course it's not right, because we still don't have a minecart track, and yeah, that was a stupid prediction. So we have very few extra pieces from that bag. All right, so that was book one. Let's move on to book number two. And get to my massive tome of books over here. There we go. All right, so some of these books are about as big as the Bible. Let's see. It looks like there's a total of 4 books. I'm looking at book 3 and 4 right now, which means I must have laid the other book down somewhere else. What did I do with it? Ah, there it is. It was on the inner workings of the table here. There we go. Ah, and book numero 2. Okay. Oh boy. All right, so the subterranean part is going to go for 10 bags. So we are halfway through. We're halfway through. Okay. And then bag 11 and 12 will be used to build the dragon, the horntail. All right. Okay, let's make it happen. So there is plenty to bag number 6 here. I still think it's funny that they've not done those paper bags that they, were all hot to trot about for a little while there. I don't know if like something happened and it turned out that they couldn't do them as paper bags or what, but this has just as much plastic as any of the other sets ever did. So I mean, I'm not complaining or anything like that. I'm not very eco-conscious, to be honest with you. But still, honestly, I think that was like a trendy thing for a while. I hate to be so pessimistic about it, but I think that really that was like a virtue signal kind of thing for a while with companies where they were like, hey, we're going to decrease the amount of plastic in our packaging. We're going to do this, and the plastic will be down by this much, and it's going to be great. And then it didn't work out for some of the companies, like Hasbro, the toy company. You had a bunch of their collectors lines. Suddenly, they tried to decrease the plastic in the packaging, but it had the unfortunate result of causing people not to be able to get packages anymore to where they could actually see the product they were getting. And then, wouldn't you know it, sales went down. They didn't like that, it turns out. So I think there's some instances where, yeah, you're gonna have to still have, a pretty big plastic presence in your packaging. I'll tell you a commercial that I don't see anymore, and that commercial is the Plastics Make It Possible commercial. Any of y'all remember Plastics Make It Possible, like the ad campaign? It would show like surgeons working on somebody or like saving someone's life, and a bunch of their equipment would be plastic. So that tells me a couple of things that are sort of funny. One of them is that the oil industry must have been so wildly successful that they had enough money to sink it in to an ad campaign to increase, I don't know, the reputation of plastic. Yeah, it's been a little while. Plastics make it possible. Who would have thought that plastics needed an agent? Like, plastic, they've been downing you in the media, man. We got to get out there. We got to spread the word about how great you are, brother. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. They're trying a new milk commercial, like now. And I think they're trying to position milk as a competitor to like Gatorade. And it's one of the most try-hard things I've ever seen in my life. And I think it's trying to boast that milk has like more electrolytes in it. And all I know is I just keep getting a vision of someone being absolutely like, just burning up. And, they're sweating and all this, and they down like a gallon of milk and then just projectile vomit it everywhere. Yeah, it's just not. So I don't think that's the look. I love milk, but that was a big thing to, the milk replacements kind of thing. Of course, if you're, yeah, that would be me for sure. Like milk replacements were a big thing. And I guess they still are, but I do know that the dairy industry like was really like down on its luck for a while. And as a matter of fact, I remember seeing something about them having so much leftover milk that they didn't know what to do with it, like after a while. So yeah, they kind of had a downturn there, I think, because it became so trendy, like not to drink milk. So go figure, go figure. I don't know if that's I don't know if that was just more of a trend or if that's something that's here to stay. You're looking at people drinking soy milk and almond milk and all this. But, you know, it's absolutely great for people who can't tolerate regular milk. And then there's some people who actually prefer the taste, which is fine. Oh, look at these festive holiday colors right here. I can hear those jingle bells. Christmas ain't forever away, as funny as that is. Okay. Oh, this is funny. I put the wrong piece here. At least I don't have a bunch of other pieces covering it. Easy to fix. I knew something wasn't looking right about that. There we go. It looks just like the picture. The picture. Let's see. Oops. I'm going through my flop era right now with putting the wrong pieces in the wrong spots. And the hits keep coming. Let's see. There we go. Flop era ended. Okay. It's funny, we're going through that part of the build right now where it just looks like nothing. Looks like a gas station that was blown apart in a natural disaster, perhaps. See, that's what we didn't learn about the dark times in the Harry Potter books and movies, was that Voldemort knocked over so many 7-Elevens. He kept ranting about the lottery. We also weren't told that Voldemort was obsessed with scratch-offs. That was what really took him down the dark path. He saw John Goodman advertising those scratch-off games, and he lost it. Those have got to be some of the freakiest commercials I've ever seen in my life. The weird John Goodman lottery scratch-off commercials that I would see on Fox, like late at night. Oh my gosh. This was like in like COVID time, I think. Like it was right around there. That was when I was really seeing a lot of these John Goodman lotto commercials. But you know, the crazy part of it is that in my mind, I know their thought process behind those commercials, because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, John Goodman seems like the kind of guy that would play the lottery. And they knew that. They were like, yeah, doesn't he though? It's Dan from Roseanne. You know he's hitting those scratch-offs hard. You know, in the alternate universe where Roseanne is still alive. Jeez. I feel bad for the character of Roseanne Connor. You know, Roseanne Barr, she's made her own bed with the crazy stuff that she said and all that. It's like she wanted to be fired. But man, the character of Roseanne Connor, I feel bad for that character. I watched that character for a lot of years. And I just wonder if killing poor Roseanne was the right thing to do. I don't think it was. It doesn't feel fair. And I may sound crazy for talking about a fictional character like that, but you know, they mean a lot to us. You watch them for your whole life, and somebody just decides one day just to, I guess, to settle a creative problem, political problem, that a character has to die. Feels like the wrong thing to do. I was looking at some of the pictures of the way that this build is arranged for the subterranean aspects of this. And I was kind of in disbelief at just how complex it is. And there was way more to it than I thought there was, because Gringotts itself, the only way that I'd seen the set, you know, was built up, you know, at the store. And Gringotts itself, when it sets on top of it, obscures a lot of the subterranean, like the detail to it. And it's pretty dramatic, honestly. Pretty dramatic. Especially near the top. I guess because they're having to make like a support bed for the massive Gringotts itself, which is All a great engineering feat in and of itself. I honestly believe a lot of these guys Lego has working for them that are, professional builders and that engineer these sets. I guarantee that a lot of like their ideas about supporting structures and things could translate into an architectural sense as well. With very minimal amounts of training, I guarantee that a lot of these guys could understand like structural integrity and how to build these, massively complicated building projects. Because I just feel like that is their intelligence. So I feel like that would be very, very much in their wheelhouse. I could be wrong. Maybe it'd be awful or something, but I have a strong feeling that those guys would absolutely dominate some kind of career like that. All right, so that's really getting, this part's really getting longer than I thought it is, because I think we are building like a support system that Gringotts is going to kind of, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure yet. It would be foolish of me to assume exactly what we're doing, because I just don't know. I think I'll know more by the end of this bag and kind of have a better sense of where this is going overall. And I'm also curious, the gift with purchase set, the extra Gringotts vault, if it really does just like plug in somewhere like seamlessly with the rest of all this, or if it's like the kind of thing you kind of have to like force to work. I still have a lot of questions, but that's going to be the fun of it, is kind of finding out the answers as we go. I honestly like builds where there's a lot of questions like that, because you feel like you're kind of discovering it in a way, right? Kind of feel like you're making sense of it as you go. Well, this is something else, this whole corner that I'm building. Very technical. Maybe I'm building framing of something. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see what this turns out to be a part of. I can't imagine what. Okay. Missed a piece. There we go. That'll even it up. Now I put this one on. Now it makes sense. There we go. Yeah. This bag has gone pretty quickly because it's been mostly these ginormous pieces to make like this support structure, which I still feel like I'm building. I could be wrong, but kind of feel like that's what this is. Turns out the first piece I grabbed was the right piece. There we go. And this is a repeat of the first little corner that I built. Okay. You know, you had asked if there was any offbeat, like weird Lego set I would like to see. And one finally just came to me that I would actually be really happy with was a Twin Peaks Lego set. I would love to see something from Twin Peaks in Lego form. That would be incredible. And it's probably the kind of thing Lego would never go for because it's so, it is really dark. But maybe in the right context, they would go for it. I would certainly go for it. Oh yeah, Hercules set would be incredible. You know, they did some of the Disney Hercules characters as minifigs recently for some of those collectible minifig series, but unfortunately, they have decided to not do blind bags anymore, but instead are doing blind boxes. So the art of feeling which character you're getting like in the bag is over. Let's see. All right, can you all hear me now? Had a little bit of technical difficulty there. Awesome. That happens whenever I get I'm just streaming with my phone, so if I get a call, then it freaks out the whole live thing about knowing if it's getting audio or not. Of course, I think I figured out how to fix it pretty quick. Is you have to go to, like, you're muting your microphone and then unmute it. And that seems to get it to wake back up and know that it needs to record audio. Thanks for letting me know, because I wouldn't have had a clue. Go. At this point, you could tell someone you were building a pod racer from Star Wars Episode 1, and they would probably believe you. It's the abstract part of the build, friends. This is what early LEGO live streams are full of. Strange colored little segments of weirdness. That's what we're all about. Looks like, again, we're building a corner here. I think I goofed up a little. It's all right. Much better. Good. Another one of those shield pieces, which there has been tons of in this set. There we go. Trying to make sense of why this is so off. This might be one of those deals where I have to like disassemble part of it to fix it. Let's see. See how bad it is here. Oh gosh. It's amazing how if you're just one stud off on this stuff that it... Yep, I see what I did now. So apparently I was supposed to put this somewhere in here as a spacer, but I didn't do that. Because apparently I'm a glutton for punishment. Okay. So this isn't so bad. Turns out all I have to do is move this one down and this one, and then plug this one into the space. Oh, There we go. Right as rain. Remember, kids, if you see an issue like that early, don't wait to fix it, because you will have to fix it. All right, and the last step for this bag is apparently doing another one of those weird black framing things, and I'm still not 100% sure what it is exactly. Go. Okay, so apparently these two parts are linked with this one brick, so it all goes together. I guess that this is probably going to be a part of the main structure up there once it all gets together. And I think I almost forgot to mention that this Bellatrix, actually, if you turn it around, I think that this is maybe when Hermione is impersonating her, because then it comes with the hairpiece right here. So it's actually pretty cool. I really hadn't even thought to look too much at the alternate face printing till then. She's got the little potion and all that right there. So that's pretty awesome. All right. Well, I would say that since we have gotten through, yes, that was bag 6, so we've done 4, 5, and 6. We've done our 3 for the evening. I want to thank all the people that have watched either live or after the fact once it gets uploaded. And thank you so much. Yeah. Yes. That was definitely Polyjuice Bellatrix for sure. And you can even see, you know, the funny kind of little details right there on her face. So that's pretty neat. Kind of freaky though. They're having a Voldemort moment from the first movie. Anyway, though, you guys have a great night. Hopefully we'll be streaming again soon with more of this wild set as we build out the subterranean vaults of Gringotts. Take care. God bless.